Welcome to Daggers and Shadow Daddies.
We're your hosts, Ryan and Adriana.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Do you remember what happened at the end of chapter 48?
He sexed her up.
Yes.
Yes.
Now we're into chapter 49, the morning after. And it wasn't awkward. I was expecting it to be a little awkward afterwards. No.
Do you find it odd that they have fairy wine, but they don't have like fairy cigarettes to smoke after a good old sexual session? You know what I mean? I think there's nothing, they're like, post-coital fairy blunts. Like nothing like that. They're just like, oh, fairy wine. And it always seems warm.
Almost like mead.
Or just wine even.
Yeah.
Wine is so rarely chilled, it doesn't sound good to me. Sort of like, I was drinking this fairy wine, and I'm like, but why? It sounds so dry.
It sounds odd that they call it fairy. Do they? They don't call it fairy wine. They just call it wine.
I think
there.
she calls it fairy wine.
Yeah, she
But
might do it because
I'm sure they would call it wine.
Yeah, I think they do. That would be so dumb.
It would be hilarious.
Or
They're like-
human wine.
What would be really funny to me is one of the cultures had to have come up with it, right? Now, if humans came up with it, then human wine is just wine, right? And all wine is fermented smush grape juice.
Yeah.
What the fuck is fairy wine? What makes it so different? What are they smushing?
I don't know, but it's like incredibly strong.
Yeah, it appears to be a real issue.
But is it not as strong if you're a fairy?
I don't know. They seem to experience things on a higher level. I imagine it would be even stronger, right? Because like the taste of their food and everything is so specifically heightened. Yeah, everything they have is heightened.
Yeah, because they're comparing it to humans.
Oh my God. This reminds me. I had a thought while we're going through, it wasn't this chapter. It's like several chapters from now. I'm going to start it now and you can remind me of it later and we can come right back to where you want to be.
Okay.
Rhysand's going through his whole bit, right? Talking about his life. I was thinking of Feyre's life. Feyre's dad. The ships got lost. Blah, 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 blah. Tamlin was able to magically make the ships reappear.
Uh-huh.
And, successful journey. Blah, blah, blah. Did those ships go somewhere that fairies have control over?
I don't know. The dad situation confuses me. He has to come back. It's just odd. There's no way he was just written off.
And he was a merchant.
The best way to write him off would be just to have him just sitting in a corner of the room. Oh, he's just in another room. He's just outside while we conduct business.
Or Feyre
But
could have went
instead-
back for his funeral. Perhaps he went out on a journey and
He is out on a journey.
but I'm saying like if he went out on a journey and didn't make it back and it was reported that the ships or something had sunk, they have a funeral for him. Feyre goes back and that's where she reunites with her sister.
I'm thinking there's a connection to something later.
Yeah, no, I agree. There must be, because the other way would have been a much easier way to tie him into a neat little bow and give Feyre the interaction with her sisters.
Yes.
So I think that there is something with him, and all I'm thinking is he's a merchant.
Yep.
They've discussed how like spices and all of these things are super expensive. The food is bland in human land. The fairy food, the first thing Feyre brings up with the food is she's like, oh my God, this makes people food taste like shit in the first book.
Do you think he's getting fairy spices?
I don't know. I'm wondering because if Tamlin can all of a sudden fix the problem with the ships, Tamlin can't revive a crew of people, right?
Yeah.
So, well, he could have fixed the boats. They wouldn't just magically have sailed right back to the harbor and everybody's like, hey, good news. Ships found their way home. Like, they're not messenger pigeons.
It made me think of the TV show Lost,
Oh,
where the airplane just disappears, and if it just like ended up showing back up 10 years later, and they're like, oh yeah, this is totally normal.
wait, what do you remember happening in the show Lost?
I know that a plane went missing, and I don't think it actually came back. It was just the whole idea of the boats just showing back up. It would be weird.
I don't want to spoil this for everybody, but they all died in a plane crash. That's the entire plot of that show. They all died in that plane crash, and they're in purgatory.
Oh, so I thought
experiencing
that
on the
they
island.
thought that they were alive, though, and that they could get back.
They
and
were
just the
under the impression they could come back. Yes, you're 100% right.
Okay, so it was a terrible analogy. I was just picturing a boat got lost in sea, crashed and wrecked, and all of a sudden just shows back up.
Nobody's throwing stones here. We're not analogy people.
Wait, well, how did we get to...
I told you I had a hard left turn. I
Oh,
was thinking about it with rhysand stuff. So we need to go back into post-coital training day.
yes. Okay, so they leave. They're happy, content. He's piggy... No, she's like, on his hip. I don't know how
She's in the Feyre Bjorn.
Yeah, she's in a Feyre Bjorn. They're flying back to the Illyrian camp, is my assumption. He's getting ready to confess to her that they are mates. Again, I was very confused why she doesn't know this or feel this. Why do you think she was so mad that he didn't tell her that they were mated? Why doesn't she know that they were mated?
Wait a minute, they're mated?
Well,
Mysterious.
oh,
I don't think she recognized what that feeling was.
oh, it's different.
Well, I'm assuming it is, so I think it's kind of like, I have no idea what period cramps feel like, right? So
You think that if you just started getting them, you would be like, I don't know what that
I
is.
would assume it would be like, oh shit, I think my appendix is about to burst or something.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, I just couldn't
That's a
get a...
horrible correlation.
I like your theory that she does know, but was in denial.
She just doesn't recognize it as that feeling.
Yeah. Then he gets shot at with lots of arrows and ambush.
Successfully gets shot. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say shot at. I mean, we're talking a little Trump assassination moment here. He gets shot at. He was pierced several times through the wings
Yes.
and other things, and they were poisoned ash arrows.
And he like pushed her or got her out of the way. And I'm just picturing him just like kicking off of her and just launching her in the sky.
Oh, I pictured he just unbuckled the Bjorn and dropped her. Like,
She
it's
fell
like-
into the arrows, the ambush.
but the arrows aren't coming from just directly below him. They're coming sort of, perpendicular to him.
No, they're coming from directly below. There
Just
are no
underneath.
winds. Yeah.
I like the fact that the arrow stuck in the wing, but it did it the other way. It's like they split a piece of paper on the flat edge. You know what I'm saying?
What are you talking about?
If somebody was shooting, if you're flying across the sky.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. That's sideways. Never mind. My math is off.
Yeah.
Well, either way, the arrows are moving perpendicular.
Yes.
With the Bjorn, I just imagine they're flying. Jesus pose and Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2?
That's how they're flying.
Yeah, he just got his arms out like Jesus, and he's just flying, just
Just
T-posing.
strapped it in front of him.
Yeah, in her Bjorn, where she's safe.
That doesn't make it like I assumed he used them
Listen,
like regular bat wings.
I'm just now picturing it in my head, and I agree with you. You're not wrong. It was more like I don't get the movie you do while this is playing. So to me, it was like, well, clearly he's just T-posing his way through the skies, and they're vertical because I don't know. That's funny to me. And then you're like, he's being shot from directly below, and I'm like, holy shit, they would have had to have really aimed for those wings because it's almost 2D from the.
Even if it wasn't directly below, if he's
Okay, I know.
T-pose flying, the angles,
Well, no, see, but they're shooting from the ground diagonally.
that's such a far distance.
It's a magical realm, and he has bat wings. Why is trajectory of arrows your problem? I will admit you're not wrong. The way that I was envisioning this is so insane.
Well, I mean, it's a man with bat wings, so it's not too big of a deal that you didn't get all the details right.
Well, and he's not a bird, right? Like, he doesn't have hollow bones.
It's also, could you imagine even just flying, trying to keep your legs up? You'd have to be like going so fast.
That's what I'm trying to say, is that's why this made more sense to me. The way you're describing it almost works for me, where, like, imagine he was just bent over at the torso, flying forward, but his
Yeah.
legs were dangling straight.
Yeah, that's what I kind of pictured a little bit.
Did you just picture his legs just dangling?
I'm pretty sure that's how bats fly.
Is Pharaoh just on his back? Is she have, like, a saddle, and she could just, like, hang out on his back?
Lizzie, can you look up an image of this, of Farah and Rhysand flying?
Lizzie, can you look up Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 T-pose?
No, he carries her like, how would you describe this?
There's no way that's mid-flight.
You gotta describe it.
I would say he's princess carrying her.
Yeah, like he would carry someone to bed.
Again, that's not how he's flying. Look at his angle to the ground in every one of these.
Yeah, they do have him upright,
They do. It's not just me.
but they're not flying in these images. You know what? Nobody draws it because it is awkward, is my assumption.
Yeah, I don't know.
In this one, she's hugging him while they fly.
And upright.
He is upright, like a T-pose. Oh my God, that's so funny.
See,
But
they fucked up too. They're just like me. They played Tony Hawk, and now, whoa, they get $80 for that poster. Is that officially licensed?
it's a metal print.
Oh,
there's a spoiler. Don't look.
please stop.
I don't know
Lizzie,
what this is, but this
Lizzie, no, we need you to stop, Lizzie.
Get it off the big screen. Get it off there.
Yes, please. You ignorant slut.
So he launched
Sorry.
her.
Sorry, Lizzie.
Yeah, you need to talk nice to her.
You're not ignorant.
So he launches her to safety in some way. She starts falling. At one point, I think it was a couple episodes back, you mentioned wind power, and I'm like, no, she doesn't have wind power. We don't know any of this information. She has wind power. Turns out that's the shield one, I think.
I don't know. I just remember being excited because I was like, wind power, I got it right. And then you were immediately like, you were fucking right. And I'm like, oh, whatever do you mean? Can we please go back? You can explain it to me. So I could just bask in it for a moment.
No. I wrote down the list of powers that she has. She has fire, ice, water, shape-shifting, winnowing, and now wind. Do you know of any others?
I think she has the power of friendship because she's not necessarily a good friend, but these people seem to be willing to go the extra mile for her, and
Yes.
maybe the real power was the friends we made along the way.
It really is because she's made a family out of this.
Yeah, but she's pretty ready to drop all of these people at the slightest inconvenience.
No.
Oh, okay.
A little.
Yeah.
But just so she hasn't... I do this where I just need some space.
Yeah. No, I know. But again, if you decide you're going to go to a cabin for a week because somebody didn't tell you something, even though it shouldn't necessarily even need to be something you're told, but I agree he could have been more open.
I think it reminded her of being locked up, information being withheld to protect her, and she's tired of being protected.
Yeah, but also, you're not just entitled to every bit of information just because another person has it.
Yeah.
I think the fact that she was there for a week and didn't come to any of this on her own speaks to the fact that she's still a 19-year-old girl.
I think she spent 5 days waiting for more to come back. She already came to terms with it. It was just more didn't come back.
Okay, but when he shows up, she's like, I still haven't decided whether or not I'm going to give you this food.
Well, she says that, but then in her head, she's like, I kind of already decided.
But she said, he knows the deal.
Yeah.
I understand that she may have a different understanding, but she has not given us those times where she just makes the right decision easily.
Yeah.
She kind of fights it every time.
She has to think it through. Going back to her
yet.
Going back to her in the forest.
Yes, because this is super cool.
Shape shifts her eyes to night vision.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was dark outside when they were flying home. I thought they did this the next morning.
Wait a minute. Yeah. I started this all off saying the next morning. The morning after wasn't awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it dark? Well, maybe they spent all day flying.
I think she had thermal vision and she was seeing where they're at. Or maybe she went into the eagle eyes and she was like, pew,
it was
zooming in.
I relate everything to The Witcher, the game.
Okay.
All of it. And the way she described, she shifted her eyes, everything brightened up.
Like that thermal vision the Witcher guy has, where you can see the enemies and stuff.
Yes. And then as soon as you leave the cave, though, it gets really bright. And that happened to her at one point, and she had to turn them off. You gotta go back to my brand.
Fair enough. She has special eyes. Okay, yes. She's got her night vision.
Yes.
We'll run with it. She winnows.
Yeah, she got really good at winnowing. Short distances, but she got really good.
Yeah.
And she's been training, though. Anytime she talked about her rhysand training, she listed off some things. And she listed winnowing.
Would like to give you the specific term that she used for winnowing, though. She says, winnowing evades me. And I remember this specifically because I think evades was a strange choice of words instead of eludes. When something evades you, it's intentionally moving away from you. Huh? She lists all the things she's getting proficient at, right? She lights the forest on fire, freezes the forest, does all this shit. She's like, I'm really killing it. She's like, but winnowing evades me. And the only reason I remember it is because, again, the word choice bothered me. Because eludes would have been like, oh, it's fucking difficult. I can't seem to figure it out. Evades means like, it is purposely trying not to let me do it. And I'm like, oh, that seems odd. Adding a lot of intentionality to these powers now.
be entertaining. I just can't do it. The
Yeah.
power just runs away.
But the next thing, when we hear of her actually successfully winnowing, this is the first time she has successfully winnowed since the time she got angry and was chasing around rhysand.
Mhm.
I think pointing to the fact of she needs to operate off a more instinctual basis for that
Yes.
power. She can't reason her way into it.
But it's a nice slow build as she's gaining and gaining and gaining. And she got
I
farther and
agree.
farther distances.
Totally agree.
Oh, I have the note. She used her puss smell to find him.
She did. And again, we discussed it. Nobody was showering. It's all over his hands.
His
It's in
mouth.
his mouth. Like, honestly, I was wrong. He finger popped her and it saved his life. Like, this man is, I don't know how to put it other than I think there should be stickers where it's like, labias for life. You know, something like that. I'm trying to throw.
Is that our
direction at this.
slogan now?
Could be. I wouldn't mind.
Life-saving labias.
Oh, that's better. Yeah, I like that. I'm trying to envision what the sticker looks like. Is this a Red Cross thing? What the fuck?
She continued to winnow, found where he was by her scent on his breath is what I'm going to go with. She goes in again, just like the Witcher is what I pictured all this.
How does she smell her like him? I might add. She has talked about his smell. I know what he smells.
No. She does address this. They take his smell two directions. One that goes around the mountain, one that goes in the mountain.
Oh,
They took something like his clothing, something of his, but only one direction had her smell on it.
that's fair. She's like, I sure hope they didn't cut off his hands. I'll follow him this way.
So
Awesome.
that's how she knew to go that way. And again, I just pictured the Witcher map when he goes into the cave and then Ciri, that's who it is, where Ciri can dash almost.
Kind of
She
windows,
does
yeah.
dash attack is what Pharaoh's doing in the cave. Takes them all out with ease. There was really no challenge.
No, well, she fashioned the arrows into daggers
Mm-hmm.
and then decided to just start ripping throats. MacGruber style. Just ripping throats.
It was really badass. She broke the chains, and I didn't know what to think of that. I understand what the chains are now, that they dull the power, but I was confused, or maybe not confused, shocked that she had the strength to break them, given what the chains can do.
It's interesting you say that because that is exactly what my question was going to be. They have the power to completely shut off a High Lord's power.
Yes.
And she goes, snippity snap, motherfucker. These bad boys are donezo, right? She's super tough.
Maybe it's symbolic in that it's around you, and then it works.
Okay. All right.
Like-
I'm on board.
Yeah, because she's touching the outside, and it felt cold and to the touch.
Chainy.
Chainy.
Ew.
Feels like
Chainy.
chains.
Gross.
Snaps it. But I think that he didn't get his power off until she took him off him.
Yeah, he didn't start getting his power back.
Yeah, I bet it's more symbolic.
Maybe. I still have questions about that. I think it's going to come up later. The other thing, she doesn't immediately take the arrows out of him, right?
She does it really slowly. And one, I want to point out right before this, she winnows him to a cave. She had to know where it was, know in her mind where she was going, but she talked about it being sluggish and her like kind of walking through mud. I don't think any of that was actually used in the book, just what I am picturing. That it was like a slow pull and she's got him by the hand and she's like pulling him with her and dragging. It wasn't an easy just boop.
I pictured it like walking the opposite direction in a lazy river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to point that out. That is the experience of it. So then she gets there. And as you said, she doesn't take out the ash arrows
She does it so fucking slowly.
intentionally because if there's a splinter in there, it would be bad.
Yeah. But also she waits for his like, yeah, do it. And it's like, motherfucker, tell him to bite a belt, pull him out.
Well, then I think if it's really splintery, you pull it out and then you have so many tiny shards and I think it would take a lot longer. Her taking the time to, I believe, saw it off so as a better cut edge is better.
What?
She did not snap it. She said if she snaps it, it gives a jagged edge. And when
Correct. I thought she just pulled them through.
I don't think so. I think she cut them, sawed them.
That sounds possible. I buy that.
I will have to go back and listen to it, but I thought she sawed it off so it had a better edge for removing.
I agree. I think that's, well, let me put it this way. I've been convinced So she sawed it off so it had a better edge, but she still waited to remove them until he gave her the okay for each one, which seemed unnecessary other than just to make it seem more tense.
Yeah. And I think also an intimate scene because she shares a story with each one trying to comfort him.
Which I really liked.
Yeah.
I think that was a lovely point in this too. And maybe you're right. Maybe that's why it had to be drawn out.
Yeah. It was showing, I think, a more intimate care, love, and affection that she had for him.
Yeah, but she's able to disassociate from so fucking quickly, I might add.
Yes, because then we
get
get
to turn off her feelings would kill me. If I'm rhysand, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, I'll find something. I'll be fine.
Chapter 50, though, right before we get to her finding out all that, she traps the Suriel. My biggest question when listening to this is how did she know the Suriel was going to be there?
So here's the other thing. There isn't only one Suriel.
Do they all have the same brain and memories and thoughts?
They all know everything, is the other thing. Remember, the Suriel is described as its bones are older than the dirt of the earth, of this world.
But there aren't many of them because one time I think Tamlin was talking about them and how old they are and that they predate.
I think she smelled where he was. That's what I mean. They're the oldest thing, right? I wouldn't be surprised if the bone carver is just a different version of a Suriel. Not really, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In that line. But I think she could smell, oh, he's in this area. She winnows the fuck close to him, catches him. What I found really wild about this one is, do you remember how she prevented herself from being murdered, supposedly by the Suriel the first time, if it were to go south?
I don't remember what her prevention plan was. I knew she was a far distance and had an arrow and released, and she did that again here.
The thing with the other one was the river. They cannot cross water.
Is that here
Or do
also?
not cross water. No, which I found interesting. She didn't catch them. She didn't catch them by a stream. And also, did she goad him with another freshly...
She had like a cloak thing, almost like a gift, I think.
That's what it was. Yeah, she offered a gift. Now, here's the thing. I think the Suriel could probably find her.
I think she even said the Suriel probably wanted to be caught.
Yeah, it needs conversation. Everybody's terrified of them. They're enormous and terrifying.
Or really wanted that cloak.
I think that's more than likely it, too.
But she releases the Suriel as they're talking. Because she releases the arrow, and as it's going is when the Suriel says, your mate, or something about that. Releases the Suriel, it stands up, and it stays and has a conversation with her. They continue the whole mate conversation, both where the Suriel is released.
Okay, not to get too weird about... So I have so much going on with the Suriel, too. Because I remember pretty vividly the first book when the Suriel is being described to Feyre, right? It's not just old. It is described as it is many things and one thing. It's like all of these contradictory statements, right? Mm-hmm. Is what the Suriel is. I wonder if there is some form of not sibling, but
hive mind between the Suriels?
No, I mean like a connection with Feyre also being the sum of many parts and individual as well. Does that make sense? Like, I think the Suriel is a hive mind, but I also believe them to be, I think they all have access to the same information, but I don't believe that they are not individuals as well. And I think there's maybe some part of that where it kind of respects her, where it's like, oh, you're also this creature that is unlike other creatures.
Didn't know she was going to become this?
Yeah, Suriel knows everything.
Future?
Yeah, it knows it all, near as I can tell. Because it also tells her, do not leave the High Lord.
Yeah.
Everything will be fine. Do not leave the High Lord. It doesn't mean that you stay with Tamlin. The High Lord could be rhysand.
Yeah.
Stick around with rhysand and everything will work out as it should, which I think is more pointing to the war we're going to have with Hybern there than it was the thing with Amarantha. But I think the Suriel has like a...
Do you think that it just likes drama? It saw the little trap. It's like, I know she'd... Then, wait, it didn't know that she didn't know that they weren't mates, or that they were mates.
Yeah, okay. I think that it is aware of events, maybe more so than all-knowing, if that makes sense. I believe it to be not necessarily completely omniscient, but I think it is aware of the major things that will happen, and I don't think the Suriel cares that much.
Wait, yeah, because it knew how long that rhysand knew that they were mates, but didn't know that she didn't know.
I think
Or maybe
she did know, and he says that because she didn't acknowledge it consciously.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he's like, wait, you don't fucking know this? I'm pretty sure you know this. Like,
what do you think that little thread pull is to him? You think that's just normal?
He's like, I'm sorry, bitch. Are you dumb? But again, Visuriel is just, oh man, probably the coolest fantasy thing that I've become aware of in this series.
The description for this one was much better, or maybe more full and rounded, because when she releases the arrow and releases the trap, the Visuriel stands up really high, tall, and she says, from across the meadow, which made it even larger in my head than what I imagined.
I think they're like 10 feet tall, because also the Fae are super tall, right? Like they're taller and better looking or whatever than humans, but the Visuriel is like, I don't know, man, they've got to be enormous.
There's some pretty good fan art depictions, but not quite the size difference.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Yes, thank you for putting that on the big screen. Oh, this is cute. Some people make cartoons. That's adorable. But no size comparison between the two of them. This one, they're both the same height. This is what I pictured initially.
They, first of all, are not the same height.
Well, it's a little taller, but I mean, in this section, it made it seem like it was, like you just said. Did you say 10 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I stand by that. I still think they're like 10 feet tall. And I would say here, she comes up like his shoulder while he's leaning.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, that doesn't.
Did they ever get this close, like face to face talking to each other?
Okay, I thought they did the first interaction she had, but I could be wrong, and we should not be in here right now, just in case.
Yeah, maybe we should get out of there before we get too many spoilers. She talks to the Visuriel. Visuriel spills the tea. Your mates. She's like, what? What? And she's instantly pissed.
To be fair, Visuriel also told her how to save him.
Yeah.
Because that's why she went after Visuriel. She's like, oh my god, he's still dying. Oh, these arrows were poisoned.
Yep.
So this gets me into the other big thing I want to discuss. I'm so stoked about this. This is a crazy theory. I don't think it's going to come true, but how cool would it be? I couldn't even resist mentioning it to you when we heard this happen. So you've been briefed.
I don't remember what it was, though.
So she fixes him by sharing her blood.
Yes.
Right? Not lots of it. But her blood contains all these high fae powers. She's got all the juices of the High Lords flowing through her.
Yes, and you wondered if his power is now increased.
Yeah, at the bare minimum, he should get a boost. And if not, he gets he can operate with the other High Lords' abilities at like 5% or something.
Yeah, not as much as her, just a little bit though.
Yeah, because she needs to still be the most Billy Badass. But I'm just assuming it's like a blood transfusion, where it's like, wow, I have AIDS now too. You know what I mean? Like a little bit of a botched transfusion, but still, the same thing applies. She's got
I don't know. Well, he healed really quickly. He says that when he comes to the doorway. He's like, yeah, no, worked really well. And he thanked her for whatever the flower was.
Yeah. What was that flower? I can't remember what it was called.
I don't even remember what color it was. I just knew it's a flower.
Yeah. It seemed important at the time.
There were other things to be thinking about at that time.
I was so focused on her blood. And like that, can you imagine? He drank her blood.
That was so gross.
And if this works and he gets some superpowers, she needs to share some with Amren. Because Amren likes blood already. Not human blood, but Amren's not tried any of Farah's sweet flavor.
That would be so weird to give like a cup of your blood to... Oh, gross. Okay. Now I'm thinking you could do it with period blood, and that's just as disgusting.
You could, but think of it this way. Imagine your period blood, right?
No.
Gave somebody superpowers that just made them the ultimate fighting machine. Dude, your tampons would end up being teabagged so fast. Like,
so disgusting.
Maybe, but honestly, if I thought it would work, I would do it. I'd be like, hand me some of them bad boys. I'll be packing them in like Copenhagen.
So gross. Just like, okay, team, let's sit down. Let's take a drink.
Yeah, you want them coagulants and be a gel capsule.
Gross.
All right.
No more.
Yeah, I'm done. That was far enough for me, too.
He drinks her blood.
He's playing Amren.
Yuck. He drinks her blood. He is starting to be revived. And she is just so cold to him. So ice cold. She's like the bare minimum of blood. Not making sure there's a little extra to 100% make sure he's good. the exact amount that he needs, gave him the flowers. She's pissed, asking him questions, and
It's not the best time for him,
no,
to be fair.
he just like woke up. He's just like coming back from death. He's like, why is she mad at me?
Honestly, I've never felt more in tune with rhysand. I'm like, wait, what did I do?
It's kind of like whenever I have a bad dream of you doing something, like cheating on me or being an asshole, and I wake up pissed, and you're just like, good morning. And I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Honestly, I've realized in the last couple of years that I'm the morning person
Yes.
of us two. Like, I wake up in the morning and I'm just like, oh my God, my life is incredible. There's birds chirping and shit. I'm like, I get to wake up next to you. And like, I'll just gently kind of touch your back. And depending on the speed with which you turn, or if you scooch a little further away, I can tell if I need to just go take a shower and go the fuck away, or if I can linger a little longer. And I think rhysand should have recognized it was time to take a shower. Like, he needs to just leave her. I don't think there was a way he could win.
No,
Do you think he was wrong for not mentioning it?
No, I don't think he's wrong.
Good. I agree with you. I anticipated us feeling differently about that.
You had a crush on me when I was with somebody else, and you didn't tell me. And I think that was a good thing.
I agree. I stand by it.
I relate it to this.
That was the only good decision 18-year-old Ryan made.
Yeah.
The only one.
And he's barely up. And she's like, winnow us back.
Yeah, no, she's a demanding butthole.
And he barely makes it there, drops him. He's just like laying on the ground is what I imagine.
In the mud, she said.
In the mud.
It's
I think
muddy.
rain. And she's like, more. But Moore is such a good friend. There was no questions asked. She just is like, are you 100% sure this is what you want? Yep. All right, let's go.
And Moore takes her to the family cabin.
Yeah.
The lake house.
Yeah.
And dude, I have so many thoughts on this lake house. Never mind. A lot of stuff happened in this episode. I keep saying nothing happened. And then I'm like, oh, I'm so excited about this. Moore, amazing friend.
Yes. I think early in the beginning, we're talking about Feyre isn't very good at making friends. She doesn't seem like she's really open to that type of thing. I'm not quite sure all the things that we had said. We just didn't think she would do a great job at it. And slowly, the author is introducing us to her opening herself up and also more reciprocating back and forth, little by little. And it was just so good to see their friendship blossom to this point of Moore just being the girl's girl that she always was.
It's entirely due to Moore. Feyre does not deserve friends this good. Feyre doesn't build on these relationships. They kind of happen in spite of her, and then she accepts the relationship.
I think she's slow to warm.
I would agree.
And
I would say lukewarm. She's slow to lukewarm.
But I think she would do anything to save Moore. And I think she would do the same thing for Moore if Moore came to her.
I think she's become a good friend to Moore as well, I'm sure. What I'm saying is, Moore starts off with, we're going to be homies. And Feyre's like, I don't like this sexy bitch. And then Moore just keeps showing up and being incredibly supportive when they have dinner at the Wind House. All of these things. Moore is above and beyond friendly and accommodating for Feyre until Feyre's icy heart finally starts to heat ever so slightly. But Moore is the one who opens the door, rolls out the carpet, and then slowly walks her down that carpet to friendship.
Yes, and it was so sad to hear Moore at the end talking with Feyre of, is it so bad to be a part of our family? Because from Moore's perspective, she sees Feyre upset to find out that her and rhysand are bonded mates.
That is the correct thing to see.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you've mentioned in the past how outside characters always know what's going on. And this was nice to see a little check-in of, from the outside view, this is hurtful and sad, and Moore feeling like Feyre doesn't want to be a part of their family.
And still being supportive.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
And
Now-
gave her more days. Like, I'll be back in a few more days.
yeah,
Whatever
and
you need.
to make sure that she is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing Moore says when she comes back even. She's like, please don't be dead. Like, there are so many great moments. I have grown to really appreciate Moore as she is not just the sexy lady who shows up and does all the cool shit. She's an amazing friend. And weirdly, I think Feyre and Amren put in the same effort into friendship.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
both frosty. And I like Amren and I like Feyre. But I would not say that Feyre's developing these friendships through work of Feyre, it is 100% against her will. It's very Stockholm Syndrome. I know we brought that up a while back, but I mean it. She doesn't grow an appreciation for these people until she's kind of been stuck with them for a while and has to start picking out all the nuance of who they are, which I think is so wonderful.
And I think she cares about them deeply, and she brings up Azriel too more. What are your thoughts on more talking about Azriel?
I think it was really enlightening. Azriel's not a virgin. That's cool.
Yep.
She's like, he gets down with plenty. Don't worry about it.
And that he just doesn't think highly of himself. He doesn't think he's good enough for more.
Yeah, but I would argue if he takes plenty of lovers, it is not an issue with his own self-esteem in a vacuum. It's an issue with it by comparison of her. He's putting her on this pedestal, which is something that happens. I would argue you and I have been through that enough times where I put you way up on this pedestal and then I just feel shitty about myself.
Oh.
And that's, well, yeah. And I've learned in the last few years, like, hey, nobody's perfect. Like, but that takes some getting used to. And at this point, I can see where he's at with more. It'd be fucking hard. She's this incredible friend. She's powerful. She's nice to everybody. And she banged Cassian every so often.
She didn't say whether or not she would take Azriel, though.
I think that is intentionally left that way.
Why? What do you think? Do you think she would?
No, I think Azriel in his current form isn't attractive to her based off of his own self-esteem, the way she perceives it.
Oh, okay. But she did say draw Azriel's eyes next to hers.
She loves Azriel. I think she's not attracted to Azriel just again because she's like, he thinks so lowly of himself. He'll always think of himself as this bastard son, so-and-so. You know, I think that's the issue. I don't think it's that in a vacuum she doesn't realize that he's incredibly good looking. He's super powerful. He whispers to shadows. The dude is, honestly, he's maybe too much like your cousin, to be honest.
What cousin?
Rhysand. If you're more her cousin.
Oh,
sorry, not your cousin.
I was like, what are you talking about?
I can't give out the name of your cousin, but you know which one I'm thinking. The Shadow Singer?
Exactly.
You know?
The super powerful one with wings?
Yeah, plays in jazz clubs every so often.
What is that reference? Jazz club?
Yeah, you know, jazz clubs, they're always smoky, shadowy places.
Oh my God.
And
that is a
he
stretch.
plays in there. He is, and they're playing jazz.
Shadow singer. Okay, now I get your joke. I'm just slow.
It wasn't a good joke, but as far as my mental image of Azriel, it would totally make sense. He's just in this greasy wine bar, and they're just playing jazz in the background, and he's kind of humming along. I don't know why he's scatting. He's scatting at the jazz club. Don't worry about it. I don't know.
So chapter 50, she gets the Suriel. She finds out they're mates. She gets mad at Rhysand. She drops him off.
Heals him, drops him off.
Yep. She goes to Moore. Chapter 51, there's only one note. Moore didn't ask questions and took her away.
Yeah, Moore is the greatest friend. I cannot say that enough. I am so impressed because she's also under a misimpression, we find out later. And I think that is, again, such good writing to make it so that your character...
Wait, who's under misimpression?
Moore.
That
Feyre's upset because she's a part of their family.
Yeah.
Not because because he wasn't completely honest with her.
Yeah.
And again, while I disagree with her opinion on that, I think it's totally valid that Moore would make the assumption she did.
Yeah. So then chapter 52, she's at the House of Mist. She does some self-care, reflection.
What's the name of this place?
House of Mist.
How did you know that?
They say it.
Oh, man, is this Mist and Fury?
Yes.
This is the house?
Yes, this is...
They're gonna destroy the cabin.
Oh my God, I didn't consider this. He's gonna do his growl, his call.
Yeah.
She offered him soup there at the end. The next chapter is him...
furiously coming.
Everywhere.
She drew all over the walls and stuff, and he's like, I'll do my own pictures. Like,
Stop. Don't ruin this for me.
Try not to. Somewhere between what you want and what I want.
This is House of Mist. It said part 3, House of Mist.
Oh.
Because part 2, I think, was the Night Court.
Oh.
Part 1 was when she was still with Tamlin before the wedding.
Holy Christ.
So it was the Spring Court was part 1.
Oh my God.
So yeah, we're in part 3. She has some self-care, reflection. She takes a hot bath. The mate bond is highly respected and would spare them from embarrassment for her leaving Tamlin. but the throne scene wasn't embarrassing, I guess. I don't know.
The throne scene?
Where he's like feeling her up in front of everyone.
Oh. I was on a different book, different throne.
There's 2 throne scenes we got.
There's only one throne scene, and this one doesn't qualify.
You're right.
I'm
But
that in the kindest way.
a mate bond is highly respected, is what I got from this.
Yes.
That it would help with the embarrassment that she caused by leaving Tamlin to go be with Rhys.
Do you think that rhysand was only aware of the mate bond when she turned 18?
Yes.
Okay. Canonically, it's important.
Yes.
I'm making sure.
Because he said it was like 3 years ago.
Is she 21 now? She was 19 when she went to the spring court. Remember? Is she 16 and he was spying on her and he was like, uh-oh, this isn't good.
I don't know. I don't know if we want to dig into these details. We're just going to pretend she was 25 when she went to the spring court.
Well, then let me just finish one other little detail here. Moore and Cassian, 18 and 17, and in Fae years, there's 2 toddlers bumping uglies. That's gross.
I think that we have heavily misconstrued what that one line was where they aren't considered adults until 75.
They're not mature.
I think it's just a maturity. I think they're adults by 18, just like humans. They're just not mature
That's where I'm at.
yet.
Yeah, just they're old enough to make the decision to have sex, but not enough to drink the fairy wine. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know.
I'd like to add again, Pharaoh's now a 20-year-old fairy. Rhysand's got a razor for the next 55 years before.
Stop.
I'm done. I'm done.
Both adults.
All right. Yes.
That's what we've ended on.
Yes, they are definitely both adults. I need to quit with the ages because it bothers me.
I just ignore it and just kind of move on. Like, they're both adults.
Yeah, but you're also not picturing him T-posing while he's flying. It's a different book for me.
It's a very different book for you.
You referred to that scene as the throne scene. I'd like a formal apology on that.
With the mating bond,
Oh, okay.
going back to Lucian talking about the mating bond, this now all kind of makes sense where he said to his dad, the mating bond is about to be in place. And his dad was like, not if I have anything to say about it. And he kills her. I think it was because they planned on doing a ceremony of her offering him food.
Oh, I thought they were going to have sex.
No, the offering food is what solidified
I
it.
know. We did hear about that being a big thing. But are you telling me Farah's lived in this dude's house for 3 months and she hasn't once been snacking on something and been like, dude, you got to try this?
It's just-
Like, are you kidding me? No way.
well, that's kind of how they set up the scene, too. She's like, let me heat you up some food. Like, casual. And he's like, all Twitter-pated. Like, oh my gosh, she's going to do
make
it.
me food? I love the way he said it, too. Like he's an ape person.
No, he didn't. It was cute, and I loved it.
Yeah, apes can be cute. I've been to a zoo before.
It was so cute how excited he was. He's just like, are you sure you know? You know, she's like, I'm not cooking. I'm just heating it up. He's like, okay.
Well, see, and I took it so differently. I took it as him going, you're going to offer me food. And then he's like, oh, good thing. She doesn't know what any of this means, but that means it's solidified. I took it a little more like if you weren't aware that your camera was on your computer while you were working, and somebody's like, so everything going okay, Adrian? You're like, yep, but you haven't really gotten dressed for the day. And they're like, okay, cool. There you are, kind of an unknown to you benefit to him thing.
And she knew that there was something about it. She said, I felt something, and it felt a little unfinished, that statement in that moment. But then she asked him, can you tell me about this? And he's like, by offering food, it solidifies the bond because
Yes.
it's essentially consent.
Yes. I took it as more of like when somebody offers you a ring, they do kind of the opposites thing here, right? Like the men take the birth control juice. The women propose by offering food.
Oh, like a
Accept-
proposal.
That's kind of how I took it. Like,
oh,
here, will you marry me? And they accept the food and like, oh, yes. But then they have to eat the food to accept it. And if she makes something gross and they can't keep it down, no deal.
could you imagine if that was the case with you and me, 19-year-old me trying to make you something?
I'd eat anything you cooked. I remember being 19. the amount of raw chicken I ingested. Listen, we have grown a lot of chefs, and neither of us were incredible. But I've eaten my fair share of cold chicken in the middle. Sometimes I wonder if you were just trying to murder me. You're like, no, this is the real mating bond.
We're going to make sure our kids leave the house knowing how to cook.
Yes, we're going to give them each a meat thermometer.
And you're like, I need to marry her.
It wasn't because of your cooking. To be fair, when I made the decision, I didn't know you couldn't cook.
Yeah, no.
Your mom's a great cook. I had assumptions. I was like, oh no.
Well, before rhysand gets there, we didn't quite finish up chapter 52. More is talking about, oh yeah, and she painted all over the walls.
What the fuck? Yeah, what a shitty house guest.
Yeah, she just paints on the walls.
Boredom overtook me. There were canvases and paint, like gallons of paint, she says. Right? She's like, I have gallons of this shit.
She could have painted white over the canvases and just done it again and again and again.
She could have went outside. You can find something outside.
It was so cold outside, though.
All right.
And snow.
Pick a piece of furniture. Pick one piece of furniture that you are comfortable replacing with your salary.
I'm assuming she's a really incredible artist, but she's really fast at it because she finished Moore's eyes in the middle of their conversation. She's like, paint my eyes. They say just a handful of things. And then she's done with the eyes.
And then she's like, now I want Cassian's and Azrael's up there. And she does that in no time.
Yeah, I don't think she finished by the end of the conversation. I think she was still working on it. But when rhysand shows up, he's like, where am I? And she's like, I was worried that if I did them, it would make me think of you too much. I would stare into him. So she's good enough that they look realistic.
She's out here doing photorealism with some wild paint. Don't get me wrong. What really blows my mind is not only is she incredible at photorealism, she is really good at different forms of perspective, right?
What do you mean?
This wall doesn't look like anything special. It just looks like a nicely painted wall. You sit on the couch and it's Illyrian wings. How are you hiding Illyrian wings on a wall? I couldn't envision it other than the bat symbol up on a wall. But if you were like real close to it, it was like, you can't even tell what it is.
I have no clue.
You don't remember this?
No, I don't.
So when Moore walks in the house, right, and she's talking about, oh, you drew all over everything. Lovely.
I don't think Moore complimented her either.
She did eventually.
Because I remember it being, is it good? Is this the moment that we find out how good her paintings are? And she's just like, oh, eyes, draw mine.
She's like, oh, why are they Amrons?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, because Amron's always watching. And I'm like, that's an odd thing to say about that person, I might add. Like, of all the people who are always watching you, I don't think Amron's the biggest one. That seems like an Azrael thing to me. I don't know.
Yeah, because he's the guardian, essentially.
Yeah, it seems like that would have been a him thing. And then you've spent the most time with Cassian. And then your best friend is Moore. It seems like... I don't know, man. It seems like Amron would have been the last person to be like, they're always watching. No, she just has the coolest eyes because they're silver.
Yeah, that would have been a better answer.
Yeah.
Her eyes are fucking cool. They're silver.
Yeah. I think if Feyre just would have been like, bitch, please. She got silver eyes. I would have loved it. But I did enjoy.
But we don't really hear how good her paintings are. That kind of irks me. That so far, this far into 2 books, not hearing the perspective of someone else. We only hear from Tamlin. I think Tamlin said that he...
Out of the hundreds of things she painted, he only wanted one.
And it was hidden.
Yeah.
Oh, that one over there.
I'll take that one. Oh, I don't want the sun to bleach it. Can we cover it? Please.
I bet she's really good. I bet it looks highly detailed. Impressive work. Do you remember that dude that doodled his entire home?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I was picturing.
Yeah, now imagine it wasn't his home. Imagine he went into somebody's place and was there for a week and just started drawing on the walls. I'm not gonna lie, it upset me when she's like, Moore walked in and I had to color it all over the walls. I'm just like, you're an adult woman. Can you not just fuck with other people's things for a little bit? And that's not an option.
But she's always kind of been like this. She did it out of her home. She painted on the table without talking to anyone.
Yeah, but it's her, at least it's her family. You can...
And she was the provider there.
And she was a child then. Like, I think we could make an argument for that being more okay. If somebody takes you to their cabin so that you can hide there from a man whom you're sort of engaged with, you're magically engaged to, whatever you want to call it, I think you immediately going like, oh, they put this paint here. It must be so that I can paint the walls. In murals, I might add, it's not like she put a fresh coat of paint on these walls as a maintenance item.
Can more just make paint appear, do you think?
I think any of them can make anything appear.
Except for Feyre. She doesn't do that.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. The selective use of their power is so odd to me. Like, I was thinking about this. When they snap their fingers and people are clean, right? They don't do that to dry off. They don't do it.
That, we already discussed the reason. They had to get naked.
Okay, let me rephrase this. Rhysand doesn't do it for Feyre after she's all nasty from the Weaver's place, right?
Oh, the same person did that twice. Just Amren does it.
Amren did it.
Twice, right?
But Rhysand has done it for himself.
He has?
Yeah, to like change his clothes and stuff. And then he magics her clothes there.
Oh, right.
Places. Like, they do have this ability where I assume they're winnowing objects. I don't know how it works. I know that it is, in large part, just very confusing to me.
Nah, that doesn't matter. The paint was there. She painted everywhere.
And nobody yelled at her because she's the chosen one.
Chapter 53, More hung out, and then she left. Feyre dreamed of her future with Rhysand. 5 days passed. This is where I told you that she was kind of left there. Kind of a long time. And there was a knock on the door. Chapter 54, Rhysand just waited. And he waited to be welcomed into the home.
Because he's a vampire now. He drinks blood. He has to be invited in.
Well, in this moment, this whole chapter just made me so happy. That's all I have to say. It just made me so happy and just falling for him. And it just really made me happy.
I get it. It redeemed a lot of Rhysand for me.
Yeah.
It didn't fix everything, but it did so much. And to be fair, a lot of it was kind of obvious. Like his stuff under the mountain. He's like, I was being good to you there. It's like, yeah, the only person that didn't recognize that was Feyre. Everybody else was pretty aware of that you were on her side.
I think what did you get from all of chapter 54, where he's talking about their bond, talking about...
The tattoo's not magic.
The tattoo's not magic. They can talk to each other not because of the deal, but because they're Damati, I think is the word.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how she was sending those messages.
After she became Fae.
Prior
to her becoming Fae.
She went inside his mind, which we now know wasn't because of the deal that they made, but because of their bond, and he pulled her and she followed it.
Bond.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't think there were any signs before that, other than just their mating bond stuff, like the dreams and things that he sent her.
Well, and she was born on the winter solstice, so they were destined.
Are they going to get married on her birthday?
Oh, that would be really a dumb time to do it if I was him. That would be so stupid. Listen, as somebody who's also with somebody who has a birthday on a holiday,
yeah,
balancing those two things is a lot of extra effort.
Our anniversary is on a holiday, but not on a birthday. Yeah.
But a birthday on a holiday, you have to separate those two things, and it's a lot of extra effort. Not that it's not worth it, but if I'm him, I don't choose my anniversary to be on her birthday.
What I'm getting from this is that we ended with the deal meant nothing other than to piss off Tamlin by giving her the tattoo.
I disagree. The tattoo was a symbol to those who knew what those tattoos meant.
Oh.
That Rhysand was on their team. He said for those who knew how to read it, they would understand.
Oh, that's a good detail. I just saw it as to piss off Tamlin, which was a fringe benefit.
Yeah, I would agree.
And Amarantha was on to him that he liked her, but then he seduced her.
Yeah, but not until the end. And I would like to add, what did he gain from making her love doing it with him? Because he went through that whole thing. He's like, I used my magic to make her want it so bad she begged.
Because,
But she got it anyway.
The reason that he was her whore was to get back at his dad. He said his dad's ghost, essentially.
Yeah,
she did it to punish him, and then he made it so she actually wanted him.
Yeah, what did he gain from that, though? It didn't punish him more or less. As a matter of fact, all he did was think of murdering her while he's doing it with her. There was no need for her to enjoy it that much. If anything, you really want her to hate it, she can hate fuck you and not be fun for her. That would be more effective as a method of torturing her.
I don't know.
He's like, I just don't know how to use this enormous penis. Like, he's just confused all the time. That would have been a better through line. Instead, he's like,
Give himself a small dick.
it wouldn't even matter if he did. He could just not be good with it. Instead, not only was he good with it, though, bear in mind, he doesn't say, I'm naturally an incredible lover. He's like, I have magic that makes my sexual experience with you better, which is super rad.
I was just thinking of the idea that they can mind vibe to each other and that it shouldn't work on her too much because she can do the same thing to him.
Yeah, if she's concentrating on that. But this is a little...
Not Amarantha, Feyre.
Yeah, I know. It's a little bit like a 69 situation, though. The hang up of the 69 situation is it's always a really good time. And then for one person, it starts becoming so good that they kind of forget what they're doing for the other one. It's not a bad deal, but it's a war of attrition.
Yeah, I think we'll have to re-listen to the why behind it because I thought in the moment that it made sense.
I have listened to this chapter 3 times, specifically looking for why, and it's 100% so that she would beg for it. Okay. But here's the thing, she didn't never get it after she begged for it. It was just she yearned for him. That's it.
Maybe it was to make his situation a little better.
I think it was a good way for us to write in that rhysand is incredible in bed. I think that's all it was. It's exposition for that purpose, and I think that's totally fine, but it was funny, but it wasn't a short part of that chapter. He brings it up like 3 times in this whole bit, and it's really funny because you're trying to convince this woman that you have this mating bond with to love you, and you're not sure that she will accept you at this point. So you're like, let's be completely honest.
Yes, that's how I took it. He's a very honest, and it's exactly what Feyre wants.
I hear it.
Even if it hurts, she wants honesty.
And you can be honest without being stuck on one thing for so long.
Yeah.
And I think because it's easier for me to look at this and go, oh, that was a lot of talking about how you were fucking that other lady over and over and over again and how incredible you made sure it was for her. That's a lot of that. But I think because it wasn't fun for me, I was like, oh, okay, we're done with that now. And then when he came back, I'm like, what the fuck? So then I re-listened to this chapter. Like I said, 3 times I've listened to this. This chapter in its entirety is probably one of my favorite chapters of this book. It is incredible.
I took so many notes because it gives the full rundown of all of the drama between all of the Fae. It all starts with Amarantha kidnaps Rhysand. Rhysand watches her kill Jurian, and then that whole situation happens. Rhys's dad rescues him. After the war, the treaty's made, truce is made. Tamlin's dad kills Rhys's mom and sis. Rhysand's dad kills Tamlin's dad and bros. Tamlin killed Rhysand's dad. No sisters for Lucien or Tamlin. That one confused me. Have we heard anything about them having sisters?
No.
Okay, well.
Lucien, maybe.
Just so many boys.
Tamlin, we haven't. Lucien, we have. No, we haven't. He has brothers. You're right.
Yeah. Then we have Tamlin's dad and Amarantha are friends, were friends, which falls back into Amarantha being upset when Rhys's dad killed Tamlin's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's trying to get kind of back at that whole situation by making Rhysand her whore. Tamlin and Amarantha are not friends, but they're closer, which caused Rhys some apprehension, like almost validated not liking her. That was a little odd, so I don't know. Then Rhysand tried to kill Amarantha, but she gave them all drinks. This is one part that really confused me when Tamlin was describing what happened that day. It was for sure drinks that they just drank, and that's how their powers were all taken. You also one time mentioned Amarantha and Tamlin being mates. Do you still think that's a fan theory?
No, I don't think so. I think I got over that pretty quick. I don't know that Tamlin has one.
It would make kind of sense of why would Amarantha make this deal with Tamlin?
Respect for his dad. They were actually friends. And I think she wanted to provide him not so much a way out, but to show him some favor.
Oh, wow. Okay. That does make sense. And then we hear about Rhys recognizing the bond very early on. In episode 4, we were kind of roasting her for going to this party of listening to the music and just feeling drawn to it, like in a horror movie, I think we described it as. Now looking back, that was her reacting to their mating bond. She felt like a tug, a pull to there, and it was to Rhysand. And when you think of where did she end up, she walked all the way to Rhysand.
Well, she walked to the fairy wine.
No, she didn't.
Yep.
No, she was just walking around and she was near the table there, and that's where she's like, they're getting me food.
I thought she walked up, was getting the fairy wine, and then rhysand shows up because the three dudes are like, hey, this is
You're thinking of party 2. There's 2 parties. You called them both Fire Festival, which is probably why you're getting confused. The first one is the calamai, which is the mating thing for Tamlin.
Oh.
She felt the pull to the party. She goes to it and she's walking, and she's like in the thick of it. And that's where she was essentially being pulled by the mating bond thread to rhysand.
It's not the one where rhysand is Mumford and Sons. That's the other Fire Festival where he's a Mumford and Sons.
Rhysand wasn't even there.
Sorry, I was thinking of Tamlin.
Tamlin playing the fiddle. The next party, that's where Farah goes and just starts chugging fairy wine, and she finds Tamlin playing the fiddle.
Yeah.
But the next day, rhysand shows up, and the way that he figured out that Farah was there was because of their bond.
Oh, I thought he smelled her.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to get to know that.
I like her smell. I want it.
Yeah, he's gross. No, I'm just teasing. He's great. All I can think of now is him and finger popping. I just don't love it. That one moment in this book killed me.
It was just an overall great chapter, recapping, just being like, hey, you know all those questions that you've had? We've answered them.
And more. There were a lot of things that I didn't think to ask that he had answers for.
Yes. Oh, yeah, like Claire Betters.
He didn't know it was a real person.
Yeah.
She just made up a name. And then he's like, I thought you were creative. It turns out, no. So I watched this girl get tortured for 3 days. And
could you imagine watching that happen to your body, even though you don't feel anything? It's just your body is being destroyed and mangled.
Well, here's the crazy thing. He waited a week. It was 3 days before he made sure everything was cool. And then a week in, he's like, oh, I just got to put her out of her misery.
But he has this face and
persona
that he needs to uphold.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying it takes a special dude to be able to do that.
Well, everybody ignored it.
All I'm saying is we overlooked a lot of red flags with Tamlin that kind of led us to believe, like, the way he first interacted with Farah, even, right? Where he's like, you mean nothing. You're inconsequential. Do whatever you want.
Tamlin wasn't doing it for the greater good, though. Tamlin was doing it for his benefit.
Which was the greater good of his court, to be fair. In his mind, it was still the greater good. And he wasn't doing, I'm saying his outbursts were just him being, Tamlin does not know how to behave like an adult.
Yeah.
Right? Every time something kind of went wrong, he threw a tantrum about it. And that's where he and Lucian would be like, Tamlin, ease up. Tamlin, don't do this. And Lucian wingmaned the fuck out of that situation, and Tamlin still barely sealed the deal.
Do you think that has a lot to do with being a child and becoming essentially king with no one to raise you and all that power?
I don't know. I mean, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? It's kind of the adage. But I don't know what it is with Tamlin. All I'm saying is there were a lot of red flags with him that we kind of overlooked. And I think there's a few with rhysand that may come up in a similar way. Like, it's not hard to believe Tamlin had that outburst in the library, right? It almost killed Farah. When you look back through his other behaviors and shit.
The signs were there.
Yeah, and I think with rhysand, we do have bits and pieces of that too. He is incredibly capable of this insane amount of cruelty, right?
Yeah, even at the Court of Nightmares.
I just think that those are red flags. Like, if you were dating somebody and they're like, well, in order to make sure that my friends don't think I'm a puss, I go out there and kick puppies. You wouldn't go, well, he doesn't kick puppies when he's around me. You'd be like, this motherfucker kicks puppies sometimes. Like, maybe we should get this under control.
Oh, that's a good point, how he deals with the Court of Nightmares. But you even brought this up. He is both of those people.
Yes, there's duality in him. And I'm not saying it makes him a bad character. I think it makes him an awesome character. I just think that it may be showing us, these may be indicative of something we may see later.
Yeah.
Like, because I do understand that obviously there is a greater good to all of it, but him having even the capability of doing those things, like I said, I think he's going to become more human. Farah's going to become less so.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows, now she draws again. So The world is as it should be.
I ended with the overall impression of chapter 54 that rhysand would have let her be with Tamlin if it meant she was happy.
I wonder how long that could have gone. Because when he first becomes aware of her, he's okay with it, right? By the time they're still under the mountain, it's a super struggle for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the straw that breaks the camel's back is her walking down the aisle, and she's like, somebody save me. And rhysand's like, here I am, coolest entrance ever.
Hello, Feyre, darling.
Right. But I don't think that for 100 years he maintains that level of civility with that, because it didn't seem to be getting easier for him.
Yeah.
I would say he made it 3 months, but he was basically ready to break down anyway.
Well, when she died is where he was broken, and he knew he loved her, and he didn't even know her, but he knew they loved her. Oh, and this also explained when he came and had a heart-to-heart with her in the jail cell. I was so confused why he was having a heart-to-heart with her and talking about his feelings and what's going on in his life when they barely knew each other. And it makes more sense now, given the intensity of the feelings that he was having for her and trying to restrain and hold back.
What I do find interesting is he was worried Amarantha would be able to read other people's minds, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he trusted that she wouldn't be able to read Feyre's, which I find odd as well. So I don't know if there's something unique to that, or if it's just...
Oh, I don't know if he was worried about Amarantha reading their minds, but torturing them to say what they knew, and so he wiped their memories of it.
Yeah, but I think he had to keep a grip on everybody's mind in Under the Mountain.
Yeah.
It wasn't like one quick swoop, we get rid of everything.
He did initially, when he knew the powers were leaving him, he did one big swoop, and then he continued on of ensuring
a maintenance cycle. Obsessively.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is you're that worried about every other individual down there except Feyre?
That was his mate. Obviously, she's not going to betray him.
Totally fair. You're right. I don't think it would have been an intentional thing. I just think, obviously, you have this woman who you know hates you at this point. You give her your secrets that you're actively keeping out of everybody else's heads. What the fuck, man? This is a bad decision.
How do you think Tamlin's going to react to finding out what just happened at the end of this chapter? She offered him the food. They are officially bonded mates.
I think the same thing. I think Tamlin refuses to acknowledge that this is real and that Feyre is in some way being manipulated. That's what I think. I don't think there's a world in which Tamlin goes, well, never mind, that all makes sense, and then just moves on his merry way. He thinks Feyre's being manipulated. I stand by. He becomes a bad guy because he has all the hallmarks of a dude who becomes a bad guy.
It also makes sense because his dad was friends with the King Hybern and Amarantha.
Yeah, that's where I think he definitely becomes a bad guy. And this is, again, Feyre's dad. There's some link here. There has to be some link.
The dad is doing something.
I just don't understand how trade routes and stuff like that work. And again, your ships come back. Are there Fae on the ships? Oh my God, maybe they trade with the people in the secret island.
I have no clue. We're going to have to keep reading.
I'm more interested in the trade routes than I should be. I will admit that right now.
At the end of chapter 53, I thought only an insane person would end on this chapter. So we had to do another one.
Yeah, well, it was 4 minutes of dumb shit.
Yeah, it was so pointless. And it's just like someone was at the door. And I'm like, I know who's at the door, but I want to hear it. I want to know who's at the door and tell me what he wants.
But also, how weird. Everybody's cold outside. She's like, oh, it's cold outside. You have power of fire. Fucking make it hot outside.
I don't think she has that good of control. And he walked there for her.
He flew.
No, he didn't. Oh, well.
He flew there.
Yeah, he flew.
Okay.
The old-fashioned way. He didn't winnow is what I was trying to say.
I was saying he wasn't trudging through the snow.
That's what I pictured. Okay. I forgot that he had wings for a minute. He's just in his T-pose across the mountains, just sniffing for her.
What is that song? Pearl Jam. That's all I can think of, too. Even flow. And he's just cruising through the skies. You know?
Pearl Jam going on.
Yeah, Even Flow's just playing, and he's just T-posing his way nearly at the cabin. Rhysand flies his ass over the mountains to the cabin.
He sniffs and smells her ovulating and cooking miles away.
Cool. Every time now you hear them flying out, that's what you think of.
It will be.
That's perfect.
I love you.
I love you.
You're my bestie.
You're my bestie. It was a great time. We had fun. Now get out and go live your life.
No, wait. No. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate and love you all. Please follow us here, TikTok or Instagram at Shadow Daddies Podcast.
And then go live your life.
Bye.
Bye. Get out. We're done. This was Daggers and Shadow Daddies. Now it's my time. Toodaloo. It was fun for us. I hope it was fun for you. But that's all we've got. Goodbye. Come back in a few days. We love you.